If dream big or go home had a face, this up-and-coming Australian MMA fighter would definitely be it. We are referring to none other than Della Maddalena, who with only a single notch on his UFC belt so far, has big plans lined up for himself already. What might be these big plans, you ask? Well, let's just say that they involve taking on a reigning welterweight champion, and eventually headlining an event in his hometown of Perth. Curious? Here are the details. First up, an opportunity to fight the best fighter in the world. While the UFC isn't like your average 9 to 5, it's not that different either. Okay, maybe on account of the blood it is, but when it comes to employees trying to rise through the ranks, yeah, not so much. As a matter of fact, the 9 to 5 principle of out with the old, in with the new is also at play within the octagon and its rankings. Simply, newer talent can replace household names in a matter of a few fights. Now we know what you're thinking. What does any of this have to do with Maddalena's plans? Allow us to explain. As of now, Jack isn't among the top 15 ranked fighters of the welterweight division. Those positions are currently occupied by the likes of Colby Covington, Matt Serra, and of course Kumaru Usman, emphasis on currently, because Jack Maddalena, ladies and gentlemen of the UFC, plans on dominating this division down the line. While this might make him come off as a little too ambitious, as per one interview, by the end of his career he wants to have fought all 15 of them. Yes, he even one day aspires to lock horns with Kumaru himself. In fact, while speaking to Fox Sports Australia, he expressed how it was the opportunity to fight big names that got him into the UFC in the first place. To quote, "An opportunity to fight the best fighter in the world? That's what I got into this sport for, and that's something that I'm trying to get to." However, and as we've already explained, as an up-and-comer, he still has a long way to go before he can even have this dream realized. And although he's ambitious, he himself is well aware of this fact. So to speak, he plans on fighting at least 2 more times before knocking on what he calls the top 15's doors. Speaking of fights, his upcoming fight against the Russian veteran Ramazan Emeev at UFC 275 is all set to take place in Singapore this Sunday. Yep, hold your horses, we're going to get to his comments about his opponents as well. But let's first detail what would be a dream come true for the Aussie. Next, an event in Perth would be a dream come true. If you've ever been part of the sports team, you'll be able to understand where the fighter is coming from. There's nothing like a home crowd to hype you up. Jack Maddalena, as a result, hopes that an event in Perth is on the cards, and if it is, he wishes to headline it. As for the Singaporean crowd for his bout in Sunday, he's looking forward to it as well. To elaborate, since Australia and Singapore are pretty close, he feels like it won't be any different from a hometown crowd. What's more, a number of his friends and family, as well as other Australians, will be at the event. All in all, and while it might seem like it, the 25-year-old is in no hurry for a home ground bout. As a matter of fact, he quite enjoys being flown around to fight. Nonetheless, primarily for the sake of all our viewers from Perth, we've got our fingers crossed for a hometown event. Not everybody's being flown around for free at all. Up next, he's a bit of a plotter. Ambition, thy name is Della Maddalena. Excuse the exaggeration here, but how else do you expect us to describe someone who thinks they'll easily take out Ramazan Emeev? Yes, you heard that right. The 25-year-old Maddalena thinks he'll finish Emeev, unlike everyone else. Just by the way, the last person to finish the Russian veteran was his countryman, Vyacheslav Vasilevsky, and this was 8 years ago via TKO in the M1 Global promotion. Now, one of the reasons why Maddalena is convinced of his victory against Emeev is his fighting style. To be exact, the young gun expects a wrestling style from the veteran. On top of that, he thinks that Emeev is a bit of a plotter and is quite flat-footed. Consequently, Jack should easily be able to stay off the deck by moving around him and stinging him. In case he does hit the deck, the fighter is still confident. That's because, to indirectly quote him, he has all of his bases covered. Well, knocking on wood. As far as the rest of the year goes, the fighter has 2 more fights in mind after Ramazan, after which he said before he'd like to take on welterweight champions, possibly at an Australian event. As for who that might be at the time, he doesn't have any preferences. His goal is to keep racking up wins till he's among the top 5 welterweights or up against Kumaru Usman. Now that our report of Maddalena's career goals is done and dusted, let's take a quick look at what else is going on in the UFC realm. Now, in other related news, Michael Bisping tells Singaporean robots to F off. This Michael Bisping anecdote is perhaps the funniest thing to come out of the recent UFC 275 pay-per-view event in Singapore. Yes, you heard that right. night, the Hall of Famer turned podcast host told a bunch of robots to F off. According to what he said in a podcast, believe you me, they wanted to keep his mask on while he was busy eating breakfast. For those who don't know, the mask mandate is still in full effect in Singapore. You're supposed to keep it on even when you're indoors, and as we just said, they get these automatons with big smiley faces to accost you if you don't. Now, while we see no problem with that, despite their Black Mirror potential, we do agree with Bisping. There's no other way for you to drink your coffee. Simply, Michael's request for them to F off wasn't the least bit out of line. Next, Kevin Holland rises to the occasion yet again. If you want more evidence of Kevin Holland being a real-life superhero, say no more. The fighter recently stopped yet another criminal from getting away. From what we know, it was just 24 hours ahead of his UFC on ESPN 37 bout on Saturday, June 18. As per the reports, Holland was at a liquor store in Austin when he noticed a foot chase in the distance. And get this, a shout about a stolen item from the pursuer is all it took for Holland's super senses to jump out. If we were to take his manager Oren Hodak at his word, then the fighter not only gave chase to the criminal, but was also successfully able to retrieve the stolen items, which of all things were a few bottles of perfume. And here we're expecting them to be weapons. Anywho, if you count the times where he helped take down a gunman, helped rescue a driver, and apprehend a car thief, then this is the fourth time rising to the occasion in recent months. When asked about his crime fighting, Holland explained how he was still a thug at the end of the day, and he loves doing thuggish stuff. We beg to differ. This is straight up superhero stuff, Kevin Holland, more like Batman. And UFC Austin's Tony Kelly slams haters after TKO. If there's one thing we all know about Tony Kelly, it's that he's no stranger to controversies. On top of that, he's not the type to own up to his mistakes. This explains why he made those bigoted remarks about Brazilians prior to UFC Vegas 54 in May. That too, while cornering fellow fighter and girlfriend Andrea Lee, it also explains the bogus apology, or rather anti-apology, that he came out with afterwards. For those of you who've been out of the loop, it was something along the lines of how he hates everybody and doesn't care if people had their feelings hurt. It's probably behavior like this that gave his opponent, Adrian Yanez, the motivation to TKO him in the first round at UFC Austin. But did this loss manage to humble Kelly? No, sir. Not in the least. As a matter of fact, he took to Instagram to release a short post-fight statement. At the end of the day, it's still F you, haters. Who's next? Is what he had to say about his defeat. He also went on to explain how there was a lot of context to why he lost, which since the viewers are simple mother effers, his words not ours, they wouldn't be able to understand. Well, that's not how we see it. In our opinion, it's just his way of blowing off steam after dropping to a record of 8-3. And if that wasn't bad enough, giving up 20% of his purse for missing weight? If only his bite were as bad as his bark. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think Maddalena will be able to defeat Amiv this Sunday, or is he letting his confidence go to his head? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.